Hello and welcome in the sixth part of the series covering Slovenia X and Slovenia X Airports. Today I will approach the recordings from a different side, so I've recorded the video and now I'm doing a voiceover. This will relieve a bit of a stress and distraction of flying, and I will be able to focus more on the visuals. I can also show you recordings and video of the surroundings, not necessarily of the immediate surroundings of the aircraft, but also I can show you the airports as intended. Because today I would like to talk about light versions of airports in the Slovenia X Airports series. There are two that are noted with this mark, this label. One is Airport Maribor, so International Airport Maribor, which is officially called the Aerodrome of Edvard Rusjan, after a pioneer of Slovenian flight. And then there is the other one in the south of Slovenia, which is called Cerklje Airport, and it's military airport. So both of them have this label of light. And what does this mean actually? So this means that the rendition is not as accurate as the other ones that you come across. These are complex airports that would deserve to have proper either a freeware or a payware scenery developed around them. You will find a couple of freeware versions, but they are even lighter than this one. So I'm not sure that there is a proper rendition of any of those airports yet. But I'm in this mission to bring all of the airports into the this Slovenia X Airports product, not leaving out the major ones. I still decided then to include them, but in a way, in a lighter version, because they would be too complex and they would require much more dedication to do them in a more detailed way. So what you can expect from them? Actually, the disposition of elements is true for other airports is also true for this airport. So you would all the stuff, all the functionalities are there. All the buildings are at their proper locations, and some of the buildings are custom made. Those that are most significant and most recognizable that I deemed unavoidable to do, I've done them as custom buildings. Some of them are then placed from the object library of the default simulator. So you will be seeing FSX buildings or P3D buildings at some, let's say these are like more generic ones, like some hangars and some FBOs. So nothing, the kind of buildings that are generic in nature, so that they will look the same or similar across the globe, or at least at this part of the region. And as you can see, there is a glide slope antenna, so this is out of the FSX P3D library, and also the puppy lights are from there, and the landing, the runways, the texture, so everything is default. Today we will also talk about the add-ons that I use when recording, and especially those that make Slovenia X look better, because sometimes Slovenia X relies on the default features like runways and grass textures and land class based scenery and so on, and it is in this regard can be influenced by some of the add-ons that you are using. So I'll be explaining what you can do to make Slovenia X look even better. Now that we are in Maribor Airport, at Maribor Airport. Let's talk about first the add-on that would make most of these Slovenia X airports look even better. And that is something coming out of the Rex Studios house, and it's called Worldwide Airports HD. I have this add-on for quite a long time and was not very sure that that was something that I needed. I bought it immediately. It looked very promising, but then I was a bit of disappointed because I've looked at the wrong airports. I looked at the special airports that did come with P3D and FSX, such as Los Angeles airport, and then we have all these known like San Francisco, so Seattle, Tacoma, and so on. So all these were special airports where these changes didn't make much difference. I mean, this add-on didn't make much difference, but what it does here, and it's also useful for Slovenia, it is sort of a texture pack that influences basically how your runway and grass texture and anonymous buildings and generic buildings like hangars look like. And this holds true for all Slovenia X airports that have paved runways, and they actually improve, and the look is improved, so you can choose among different high definition textures for runways. They can be more used, they can be less used. They can be like concrete runways or asphalt runways and so on. So different kinds of markings, at least the usage is shown and so on. It's not necessary that you operate with real Worldwide Airports HD. You can have similar packs from other providers of textures that do basically the same, and this is change or influence the default textures of the sim. Now we are flying over the Maribor city. This is the second biggest town in Slovenia, and it's located, as you can see, along the Drava river. Drava river has there an island. There is a swimming pool, summer swimming pool there. You can see a hippodrome. You can see also another power plant that's located on the Drava river. There are several also upstream and downstream from here. Now we are turning again towards the east, so not far ahead is already Austria again, and you can see the stadium in Maribor, and again a photoreal, partially photoreal insert where the city is, and you can see the Maribor City Park with some water features and ponds, and the highway going along the outskirts of Maribor. And now we are heading towards another town which is called Murska Sobota, and this is also today's final destination. Another VFR airport, quite popular and located in the flatlands region called Prekmurje, and we will also see the river Mura. So a couple of prominent rivers in Slovenia. Mura is slow flowing, winding in these plains, a river that goes then towards Croatia, I believe. I hope I'm not mistaken. On the East Slovenia borders, and especially these parts, borders with Hungary. So you saw the Maribor Airport, and in regards to the add-on that I've mentioned, you would notice, say, the apron textures are different, probably from the default, or most likely then the runway is a bit different from the default. It's much higher resolution and it has more charm, more details and more character in it. Then you would notice a hangar there that has nice and high definition textures that wouldn't be there. And these are the default buildings that not real, but worldwide HD airports modify. Looking at this add-on list further, of course we cannot avoid the question of Orbx, especially Orbx Global, Orbx Land Class Europe, and Orbx trees, which are all things that are added to my sim, and you can from time to time have glimpse into them. So let's start with global. The add-on is that kind of an add-on that changes all the core textures for scenery and for land class. So basically makes your simulator looks completely different than from the default. It has more brighter colors, it has higher definition, it has also more saturated colors, a bit of more contrast. All in all, I think it looks much better. So if you remember, I talked about running out of land class for certain features, so there are just only a couple of land classes available for me to tweak and change and do the my own textures for the land class. And these that you are looking at, like fields, pastures, meadows, and some highland features, some coastal region features and textures, they are all custom made by me and modified. So especially these fields that we are flying over. I haven't touched other land classes that looked alright already. So these are like forests, all these wooded areas. For example, I haven't changed the texture for golf courses. I haven't changed the textures for grass, mostly. Well, some of the grass I've changed, especially those for the airports. And so these all influence and shine through the Slovenia X, because if you don't have Orbx Global, you will look at the default textures shining through, and if you are having Orbx Global, then you are looking at Orbx Global textures for forests, for example. I'm talking about ground textures. What you can see here are also another add-on from Orbx, but you can also have different add-ons for trees. So I have Orbx Global Trees HD, and this will make your trees look better. So if you have the default ones, you will look at the default ones, because this is auto-gen and it's inserted on the right spots. I've provided the vectors where these polygons where the forest should be, and of course there is the diversity between different kinds of forests, all in and all based on real data. However, it looks much better if you have Orbx trees. Orbx Global LC, Orbx Global also influences how your roads look like, whether you have roads lit up by night, in the night by street lights. So all these kinds of things you will notice. Slovenia X has its own lights, its own objects for lights, and you can turn them off if you have Orbx Global, for example. Because otherwise they will be redundant. There will be two things for the same thing, and they will just eat your frames and burden the CPU. So let's go forward in this list. Of course, Orbx Europe land class is especially tailored for things that you would come across in Europe, and these are fields, and these are certain kinds of settlements, patterns, and so on. So the settlements are also usually, if they are generic, if they are not inserts, they are default textures used. So you will see if you are having global Orbx Global Europe land class, you will see those also. So this is something that you will benefit from. And I've made special efforts to fine-tune and color match the custom textures with the default textures and with the Orbx textures. They should blend in nicely. The advantage is that even if when you're coming over the border, you will be able to not notice, and this is an advantage, to not notice a sharp divide between Slovenia and other neighboring countries, which is a plus, I think. And unfortunately, this will be a bit of will be lost when we get to Slovenia photoreal, because you will always see the difference between land class texture, generic texture, and a photoreal imagery. That's unavoidable. Then there is another add-on. We are coming to before I proceed, I will explain that we are coming along this highway to the river Mura. There is the bridge going over, and over the bridge there is a town called Murska Sobota where we are headed. And on the southern part of Murska Sobota lies a airstrip, Murska Sobota. And you will see also a big lake. It's artificial, and it features also prominently near the airport. So the other add-on I would like to talk about is PTA, or prepared. I have to look it up. Prepared Tweak Assistant, made by SimTweaks, and this is the one that concerns the shader. So you have many programs that you can use for different kinds of to tweak your shaders. So one tomato shade, and this one is like PTA. I'm using PTA, and I'm also using special settings that which are posted down below the video in the description. And these settings give me, and they are made mostly for New Zealand. So the guy from New Zealand made them for New Zealand to look better, actually. And Slovenia and New Zealand have a lot of similarities. So here we have observed the airport. There you see this is again a photoreal insert, which blends nicely. I hope you share the opinion. That blends nicely with the surrounding. It's again hard to spot because we have grassy runways, and so the fields look like similar, and there is not much difference in texture. So, and yeah, and you can see also that there are all these stops and gas stations along the highway are modeled in, parking places, the rest places. There you have farms, and you come across many different this kind of places, a toll station along the highway, all accurately placed and accurate in size and so on. So everything is suited for and dedicated to VFR flying. So you can recognize this one, and it's completely different in shape and appearance and how it's supposed to be than some other along this highway, so you can say precisely that you are here and nowhere else, so along with other features. So PTA, PTA, this kind of greens are quite distinct for New Zealand, obviously, but also work very well with Slovenia. So I think it's just the right color. Sometimes it's a bit vivid, too vivid, especially in summer, but most of the time Slovenia looks like that from the air. Very bright green colors. So I very much like these settings, and I use them all the time and in recordings as well. I use it all the time along the whole globe. So I'm flying a lot in the United States, for example on the west coast and up to Alaska. So I'm using the same kind of settings and they work. So this is also one of the things that will make Slovenia look different, better, or better. So we are now flying over Murska Sobota. You can see down it's not a castle, I think it's a fort. And there is a stadium. Again, a photo real insert of Murska Sobota that blends in with the surroundings. And now we are heading towards our landing site. And there is the final add-on that I would very strongly suggest, and this is the add-on that changes the grass texture of the airports. And this is not the grass texture that we are observing from the air, so not the grass texture, not the land class grass texture. That one has been changed. I've made it my own, and it looks quite good from here, from above here, from the air. But I'm talking about the other kind of grass texture, this granularity of grass when you come closer, when you are looking at it from 1 meter distance or from 10 meters above. So when you're coming closer to the ground, the flight simulator overlays this grass texture that you are looking for from a land class based texture with another kind of texture that is meant for being observed very close up. So and it gives you this granularity. You see the grass, you see like specific grass texture as you would see it from much closer than from the air. And this is something that most of the people are missing when I look at the recordings, and this could improve your experience, especially if you fly to the grass airstrips or taxi on the grass taxiways. This improves a lot. The experience gets improved a lot by this. And now we are downwind to Murska Sobota. You see two perpendicular runways, both are grassy strips. And from here, the grass that you are looking, it's like photoreal image of this grassy airstrip. But when we will be coming closer, you will see that it gets the granularity and a lot of details. And I'm using a brilliant add-on. It's a freeware, so no excuses not to get it. And it makes a whole lot of difference. It's made by Drzewiecki Design from Poland. I like their airports as well, all their products actually. And they have made this special kind of texture. You can install it and it's free. So they also added another feature that in winter you can change it, but you have to do it manually through the installation program to a very refined texture of snow. So if you're flying to Prevarica again in winter, then I strongly advise this add-on and that you change it in winter. So even if you leave it as grass, it will not bother you too much, because it's even there's some grass points out of the snow sometimes and so on. It won't bother you, but if you change it to snow, it will look even better. And this is not the only one that it's available there. You have a couple of freewares and you have a couple of baywares that are included in other suites of textures. I'm sure that Rex has something similar involved, at least that I remember when I had this. They have so many titles, I don't know whether it was Overdrive or it was like something else, but again there was this texture for the grass, this close-up grass included, and it really makes a difference. So these are basically the add-ons that will influence the look of Slovenia X and Slovenia X airports. The one that will not change anything is, for example, Orbx Vector, which doesn't make sense for Slovenia. And if you have Slovenia X and Slovenia X airports, they are much more detailed, and this vector aspect, and so vector will not make any difference in Slovenia X. What it will make a difference and where it will make a difference is if you don't have other add-ons that are bordering of the countries bordering Slovenia. So Croatia will look much better, and this fine structure and fractal image of the coast and the accuracy of highways and all these roads in Croatia will look better with Orbx X, with Orbx Vector. And also Hungary, Austria, all these countries will look better if you don't have special add-ons for those countries as well. So today's flight was a bit different. I didn't talk much about scenery and what we are seeing, but more about the behind scenes behind these videos that are coming your way. So now you can see the detailed texture of the grass, and although it's not perceivable much, you can see this, like all these different kinds of grasses and shades of grass and fine texture. So this is a whole lot better than a default simulator overlay that comes with a default sim. Either can be FSX or P3D, so this makes a difference. For a long time I was wondering why my FSX looks so much better when I close up on this grass. For example, here you can see that it really looks good, and this is 2D texture. Okay, there are some 3D grass there that I've inserted, but this what we are driving on is a 2D grass, so 2D texture of the grass. And I was wondering why my FSX looks so much better than P3D, and it took me a while to figure it out, which add-on and what kind of an add-on will make a difference. And so here we are. There is Pilatus Porter there from Slovenian Army visiting the place. Some YouTube videos of the real airport, you will see it visiting as well in real life. And we have here a Peter Podlunšek that raced for Red Bull Air Racing, and so that's why you are also coming across some sort of Red Bull air racing planes there, because he has visitors or he's training here. He was training, he's not flying for Red Bull Air Racing anymore, but shout out to Peter Podlunšek, he's the man. And with this I'm saying goodbye and see you next time.